Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. And it's great to be ending the week on a topic like confidence. So I hope for anyone who's watched the replays or watched with me as we've gone along this week, that you've got plenty out of things. We've talked a bit about why we are looking for a role and what the important factors are. We've looked at CVs, we've looked at talents, and now today we're going to look at confidence, because there's not really much point in thinking about all those things that we're good at, finding the exact perfect match for a job and understanding that I've applied for the right one, if our nerves basically get to us and we fall at that final hurdle. Unfortunately, confidence is probably the single most thing that people come to me about, and that doesn't matter whether that's about career coaching, leadership, any kind of angle. Confidence is something that is probably a problem for most people, and that's men and women. The phrase about imposter syndrome is true of many people. I think there was a study that said something like 70% of people in business had experienced imposter syndrome, but I think most people have had it, and I would say the other 30% are lying, or they have had it at various points in their life. So what can we do to make sure that when we go for an interview, or even when we're thinking about applying for roles, we're our most confident self? Sometimes we're even put off making an application because we look at the job description, we look at the attributes and the requirements, and we think, I'm not really good enough. I'm not really sure I'm qualified for that. And there are certainly studies that show that more likely it's women who look at a job description and write themselves off and don't even apply, compared to men. And I think the study is something like, men will apply if they meet 6 out of 10 criteria, whereas women will expect to meet at least 9 out of 10 of the criteria. So confidence can be so important about even what we're looking at, where we value ourselves, what we think we're worth. Then going and actually applying. So if we can get confident and actually feel a little bit better, then we are likely to be presenting ourselves just that a little bit more confidently and outwardly, and showing people that we are who we say we are. We can have a great looking CV, but if we then kind of go, oh, and can't get it out of our head, then we're not going to present. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about today that I think can really make a difference. The first one is to actually start to remember those times when you do feel confident, or you did. Now, maybe we've had different events in our life, or we've taken a knock, maybe we've had a redundancy, maybe we've had some period of ill health, been off sick, been on maternity leave, and had an absence from the office that makes us feel a bit like, oh God, I just can't even think about how I could be confident. A good exercise is actually to sit down, be quite still and quite quiet, and if you can, go into a kind of a private room and sit and really think about a time when you were really confident. If you go onto my website, you'll see one of the podcast episodes actually takes you through like a guided exercise that will talk you through how to do that. I won't do that on here because it's quite long, but there is also a script for it in the book. So it talks about taking some time to relax and get yourself back into that time when you were feeling confident. And the memory is an amazing tool, because what will happen when you start to think back to when you were confident, you will start to remember little aspects of what it was about that particular moment in time that made you feel confident. And the challenge is to go back into that moment as if you're there, and the brain is brilliant at doing this. It can go right back in and it can really see things, hear things, feel things, see how your posture was, see what you were wearing. And you can start to analyze that and think, the reason I was confident there was because, could be about the outfit, could be about the preparation that you'd done, could be the fact that you were standing up, sitting down, your posture was great. Whatever it is for you, really tune in to that moment. What it does is it reminds you that you have had moments in your life when you were confident. And what you're trying to do here is to really kind of tune in, what did that confident you teach you that you can take forward for today? And many people that I coach will say things, oh yeah, I really knew my stuff then. I really, really was prepared. And so what we learn from that, or what they take away from that, is that to be good in a meeting or in an interview, that preparation is key for them. For somebody else, a lady who said, I'm wearing my killer heels, my kick-ass suit. And she immediately said, right, I'm going to go and pick out my best outfit. So whatever it is for you that comes up, that can help to remind you, and then get prepared, ready, so that you just start to feel confident. I think most people would say that there are things that we do in our routines or what we're wearing that can really make a difference. For some people, it might be, you know, the hair, the makeup, or the outfit, the shoes, the suit, that will actually give them this sort of coat of armor. And I think we shouldn't underestimate that. So have a little look at that exercise and see if you can tune in to those confident moments and remember them. Now, oftentimes we don't really remember what it is that we are good at. And so another thing that I advise all of my clients to do is to keep like a praise diary, or a congratulations log, or a thank you folder. And this is for, you know, any time that you get an email from somebody, a colleague at work, that says, thank you so much, you saved the day, or it was really kind of you to just spend that little bit of time with me, training me on so-and-so, or brilliant, you fixed that in 2 minutes and I could never have done that. Whatever, whenever you get a piece of praise, and it can be really small, thanks ever so much for turning up, or you great job. Doesn't matter what it is. What you're going to do is create, I used to create like a folder in my Outlook, I still do, to keep testimonials and things. And anytime I got a compliment, I would just put it straight into this folder. It can be used for things like appraisals. Anytime you've got some testimonial or a bit of congratulations, or a review that's given you some bit of information that's praise, what you do is you put it all in the folder. And then when you're having a really bad day, you can go back to that folder and you can have a good look at it and go, oh yeah, I did that. And oh yeah, so-and-so said that, and that was good. And you start to get this boost because you'll start to be reminded of all the good things that you did. The other thing I do recommend doing is that, you know, that's good for emails and things that are in writing. But you can also do, you know, if someone says to you in a meeting, oh, thank you so much, that was just so helpful, or that was a great presentation, really loved that, great energy, whatever they've said, make sure you make a note of it. Send yourself an email that said, at the meeting today, John said that he was blown away by the level of quality, or the detail, or the inventiveness, or whatever. And write it down, email it to yourself, and then pop that in the folder. Sometimes when we are getting praise, we kind of dismiss it. And what we'll do is we'll walk out of the meeting and go, oh God, well, I could have done this. And we often, and so many of my clients do this, they don't even hear the praise because they've already moved on to the actions that came out of the meeting, or what should I do differently? Oh, I think I messed up a couple of words there. The whole thing went well. People praised and congratulated, but we focus on the little bit that didn't go quite so well. So what I want you to do is to really start to listen, and whenever someone says anything good, write it down, email it to yourself, and pop it into this folder. And then you've got a bit of a record. It's not just great for our self-esteem and our own sort of ego, but when you are, especially if you're in a business, when you're going for appraisal time, then it's brilliant to be able to go back to this folder and say, you know, I had this feedback from this client, or this customer said brilliant. And you've just got some evidence that starts to show, and it'll just remind you of some of the skills that you're good at. Earlier in the week, we talked about natural talents. And a lot of people don't necessarily know what their natural talents are, because they'll say things like, oh, well, I just do that. surely everyone's as organised as me. Well, no, they're probably not. If you get lots and lots of praise about a particular thing, thank you for fixing my computer, thank you for being a superstar because I would never have known where to find that, and you got that file sorted for me, you saved the day. It will actually start to give you an indication of where some of your natural talents lie. It could be that you were really friendly and helpful and you're very people, could be very tech, could be very sales, whatever it is. You're going to start to see what the trends are for this praise. And then when you are reviewing for your CV, looking at your natural talents, and then you're starting to think, oh, what should I be doing in the future? What could I be doing? What areas could I be working in at some point in the future? These indications and bits of praise can really help you just to reflect, actually, I am good at that. It might be something you've taken completely for granted before. So we talked about going back into the past and seeing when you're the most confident, and then capturing everything that is going on right now. The other thing I think that is so important when we're talking about confidence is and it is a bit of a prep thing and a planning thing. But if you think about going to an interview and you are a bit late, now it might be that it's online, but I still see people turning up to things online late. But more likely nowadays, things are starting to come back into people going to an interview face to face. If we're running late, if we haven't thought about where we're going to park or what train stop to get off at or how far we've got to walk when we get to the other end, if we haven't looked at the map and worked out where we're going to go and what is it, that address, or are they in that different building? Because actually they've got 3 sites in London and I'm not really sure where I'm going. That makes us feel very stressful. I mean, it makes me feel stressful thinking about it, actually. You sort of think, oh God, I'm running late. Where am I going to park? What am I going to do? What happens then is that the body, the adrenaline's flowing. We're kind of in our fight or flight state. And none of these things are conducive to doing a good interview because the brain is on high alert and thinking, I'm in trouble, I have a threat. And you've put yourself in that situation. If you haven't done the prep and thought about how you're going to get logged on time and be organized and be prepped, you're putting yourself into a situation where all the anxiety, the adrenaline's flowing. And what happens with the brain when we're in fight or flight mode and anxious mode, all of our blood flow and attention goes to the heart and the lungs and the legs to make us run or fight. So the brain kind of shuts down a bit. It's why when you are in a bit of a panic, you can't think straight. When we're calm, we're thinking there's no threat, we're good. The brain can then access all of its material. It's why one of the biggest things I'm trying to teach my kids when they're doing their exams is being calm. Because if you're in an anxious state, you cannot access the information. And that's the same for exam students, big presentations, interviews. You need to be calm. So the way to make ourselves calm is to be prepared, organized, on time, giving yourself loads and loads of space. So it's much better to be 20 minutes early, turned up at the right office, been able to go to the bathroom, do the hair, bit of lippy or whatever the boys do, and start to be calm. And it's much better to have a little bit more time to perhaps read over your notes and get yourself into that situation. You will then feel more confident than if you've turned up late, flustered, in a panic, hot and bothered, thirsty, thinking, God, I need a drink, and you're dying for a glass of water, and then you're like straight in. And they're like, right, come on in, you're late. Talking of water, I'll have a sip. When you get to the office, now actually, if I've talked there about going out, the same applies for if you're doing an online call. I think we get a bit lazy if we think that we're doing something online and we think, well, just log on at 12, click. But actually, we need to get ourselves in the same state and the same position as if we were going out. So you need to think still about what your outfit is, what your camera setup is like, what the lighting is like, what the backdrop is like, and making sure you've got your notes, a pen, a drink, and being ready and settled at your desk. in advance and not just sitting distracted on your phone or clicking about on other sites and other emails and then thinking, oh gosh, 1 minute to go, boom, I'm on. Use the same approach. Close down everything else on your laptop. Get what you need that is ready, the job description, your CV. You know, there is an advantage for being doing an interview online because you can have notes or prompts and reminders behind the scenes that they can't see. You know, I've got a couple of notes here and I've got my book here. But you can't see it. And in an interview, you can have whatever you like. You need to be organised so that you're not constantly referring to it, because if I was to sit here and read out my notes, it would look a bit weird. But it's there acting as a prompt. So you do have a bit of an advantage, but you've got to make sure that you have a desk that is organised and that you know what you're doing. You're not rustling around for lots of bits of paper, because that's just going to make you look, just not very professional. So whether it's online or out and about, then making sure that you're prepared, organised in advance, and you've turned up on time in the right place at the right time. It does count. And I'm afraid when I was doing lots and lots of interviews back to back on a day, if I had 30-minute slots and people were late, they didn't get any longer because I had the next person turning up at the next slot. So all you're doing is cutting off your own time to sell yourself. And it gives a bad impression. If you can't organise yourself to turn up on time, are you going to be organised at work? Especially if it's a job that's all about organisation skill. So it does matter. If you are going to be late and you've been unavoidably held up, perhaps with a train strike or some accidents happened, try and make sure you ring in advance and just say, look, I was all destined to be there half an hour before, but the train's delayed and I'm stuck. So at least have the courtesy to tell them, because then at least they know that you were trying and it's not just that you've just wandered in late and don't care. So when you're there, one of the things, I've talked about this a lot, I think probably it's just something I've banged on about for so many years. A lady called Amy Cuddy talks about something called the power pose. It's being talked about a lot more recently. And when I was at a recent talk with Paul McKenna in London, he was talking about it. I think he's mentioned it in his book about stress. But she did a TED talk about 5 or 6 years ago now. She'd done some work looking at the effect of our posture on confidence. And I now work with coaching clients in this area quite a lot. And it's amazing to me, if I say to someone, put yourself into a position where you feel like you're going to be really nervous and worried and anxious. Most people do something like this. And they'll say, oh yeah, my legs have just crossed, my arms have just crossed, my legs jiggling. Oh, I feel a bit constrained, I can't breathe, my heart rate's going. And we haven't done anything. We're just still sitting opposite each other. And all I've said is put yourself into a position of feeling nervous. What it means is, and then I say to them, now put yourself in a position where you feel more confident. And they usually sit up, their shoulders go back, their legs uncross, they put their hands down, they can breathe. And they go, okay. So you can change your posture and it changes the way you feel. And I think that's amazing. And Amy Cuddy's study, and if you look at the TED Talk, it has scientific evidence that backs this up. It shows that when we're in a posture, which is a power pose, as she labels them, actually hormonal things happen within the body. Our cortisol, our stress hormone goes down, and so our fight or flight goes down. We're not as anxious, we're not on high alert. And actually our bravery hormone, testosterone, which both men and women have, goes up. When we are in this sort of, oh my God, I'm about to be attacked by a lion or an interviewer pose, what happens is the opposite. The stress hormone goes up because I'm on high alert, I might get attacked, and the testosterone, the bravery, goes down. So even if you were arriving at an interview and you had been quite well prepared and you were quite organised, but if you sit in that reception, hunched over your phone, jiggling your leg and going, oh, I'm nervous, I'm nervous, I'm nervous, you are making yourself physically less confident. Okay, so one of the main things you can do is either go to the bathroom and do one of these power poses, which I'm going to show you in a second, or if that's not appropriate, or you are 20 minutes early and it would look a bit weird if you were in the bathroom for 20 minutes, you can just stand up in reception, because standing up is one of the key things, or at least sit with a good posture, not looking at your phone, not kind of jiggling about and being kind of anxiously nervous. So she has a couple of these power poses, and I'm going to demonstrate. One of them is she calls the Wonder Woman pose, and that is, and men, but that is where you stand sort of hip width apart. I'm glad the camera doesn't go any further down, because then you see that I've got some woolly slippers on. But you put your hands on your hips and you have feet a little bit apart, and you then stand up and look outwards, and you're basically standing like this for 2 minutes. And what she found was that just 2 minutes of standing in that pose was enough to start bringing down the stress hormone and taking up the testosterone levels. Another pose, which is known as a power pose, is one that we typically see in kind of 1970s films, where a man is sat with his hands back and his feet up on the desk. That's a power pose. I wouldn't recommend you do that one in advance of an interview. And the other one is called winner pose, and that is where you see, Dame Kelly Holmes as she crossed the line running her 800 meters, and she did this with her fingers. I can't do it like that, but yeah, her fingers up, so it's up, and I'm a winner. That is also found to be a power pose. Again, a tricky one to do in advance of an interview. So the power pose, the Wonder Woman that I just showed you, where you're standing feet apart and your hands on your hips, you can do that in the bathroom, 2 minutes on your own. Nobody needs to know that you've done it. Or if you're standing in reception waiting, you can be standing in a similar pose. The main point is shoulders back, feet to the floor, and you're kind of showing that level of confidence, and you're breathing deeply, and you're just telling your body that there's no threat. That's the ultimate side of it. You're telling yourself you're not in an alert fight or flight situation. And if you can do that, what will happen is the body will respond. So have a try with it, because I think if you find, any coaching session that I've done with people, I've asked them to just play along with this, and we've done the different poses, they have felt physically different by moving from one state to another. And it means that if you can recognize that we can feel differently in our bodies by being in different poses, then actually we can actually control that. When we feel frightened, we go into this pose. So if we don't want to feel frightened, we can come out of it. So have a go, have a play with it, and see what you think. If you search for Amy Cuddy TED Talk, then you'll find it. It'll come up. It's had 20 million hits or something like that. And I think it's about a 20-minute video, and it'll explain a little bit more detail if you're interested. So there's lots you can be doing to build your confidence up, and it's a bit like a muscle. If you want to be confident on an ongoing basis, you need to be feeling and feeding that confident muscle and using it more and more and more. It's quite difficult to think, well, I'm going for an interview next Tuesday. I better be more confident for that. We need to sort of slowly build up our confidence levels so that when we get to those interview moments, it's just another thing. So if you can be remembering when you were confident in the past, if you can be keeping a log of all the times when people have said nice things about you, not just what you've done, but how you've done it, what your personality was, the effort you made, the difference that you made to them, keep a log of all of that. And then if you're thinking about doing the power posing, when you're in a situation, and it can be used for meetings, interviews, exams, doesn't have to just be the interview situation. And then making plans so that you turn up on time organized, ready, you will feel more confident. So thank you for joining me this week. If you have, thank you for watching on the replays. I wish everybody the best of luck with any job search, and that's whether you're watching now and needing it now, or whether you're watching at some point in the future because your circumstances have changed and you've found me online. So I wish you all the best. It's my hope that I can make a difference to people, make them feel a bit more confident and get the job that they actually want, and feel happy with it, because life's too short to be in a job you hate. So here's the book. It's in the background, as you've seen. Have a look if you're interested. Colour copy is available directly from me on my website, you can see, or you can get it black and white version from Amazon. So do keep in touch. You can follow me on LinkedIn and let me know how you get on, and I will see you very soon. Take care and have a lovely weekend.